Welcome back to Hannity. So as one South Carolina community continues to grapple with the circumstances surrounding the shooting death of an unarmed black man at the hands of a police officer, I recently spoke with Dr. Lonnie Randolph, the president of the South Carolina State Conference, NAACP, who stressed the importance of the bystander video in this case. Listen to this.
Thank goodness we don't have to speculate, nor guess, or hypothesize about the incident that we're speaking of in South Carolina. And if this video had not been available, had the young man not presented us with that video, I can only imagine what the outcome would have been.
And back with me now is Tavis Smiley, the host of the Tavis Smiley Show, author of the brand new book, by the way, My Journey with Maya. And you were friends with her. I didn't know that.
21 years. She found me when I was trying to
when we first became friends.
Yes, way back then, trying to find my own voice, trying to find my place in the world. And she, I say all the time that we are who we are because somebody loved us. And she loved me and helped me figure out what my place in the world was. And if this book is about anything,
and
it's
here
about
all these years, I was thinking about My Journey with
mentorship.
Hannity. Well, it's a good book, and she's a special person. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. We have these incidents. We have Trayvon Martin. Then you have Ferguson, Missouri. Now we've got this one on video. There's big differences, though, between them. I look at Trayvon, and you have an eyewitness that says Trayvon on top of George Zimmerman, ground and pound, George screaming. We hear the audio. You've got multiple eyewitnesses, many of them black Americans, saying Darren Wilson's story is 100% accurate about Michael Brown's behavior. In this case, you have a video. I look at this video, and I want to cry for this man and his family, because under no circumstances should any cop that's not under a threat be shooting somebody in the back. And people are trying to sort of conflate the issues, and I see no area of conflating them. Your reaction?
I hear your point about the differences in every case, and obviously you're right. All of these cases are different. There are no two cases that are alike. I think the point that people are trying to impress upon you, Sean, is that every time one of these cases happens and another young black man is killed, and someone then says that this is an isolated incident. What happens first is we hear it's an isolated incident. It doesn't mean that all cops are bad. Well, I agree that doesn't mean that all cops are bad, but the question, I guess, is how many isolated incidents equal a pattern? And I think black folk and others, not just black folk, but black folk and others who care about the humanity and dignity of all fellow citizens being respected are tired of hearing that these are isolated incidents when nobody wants to acknowledge there's clearly a pattern here.
There's a lot of violence in society, though. And for example, I'll roll this video that was just released, of a Boston police officer being shot right in the face. We're going to lose 100+ officers every single year. Then you and I have discussed on this program black-on-black crime. That's an issue where the numbers are extraordinarily high, unnecessarily high, I would argue. And, you know, there's a lot of violence and a lot of evil in this world and in society. So
again, we don't want to conflate these issues. The truth of the matter is that more white folk are killed by cops every year in this country than black folk. And so what we have to consider is that if we don't do something about these police shootings, oftentimes police shootings that cannot be justified, in this case police officers or a police officer in South Carolina who apparently lied. If we don't do something about that, Sean, all of us are in danger. One day it may be your child, it may be
Tavis,
your daughter one day,
could be me,
and that's why
could
this
be
issue
our
is so
kids.
important.
I agree.
Exactly. It could be me.
You know, it's interesting. Geraldo put out a theory. They have the dash cam video here, and I think I disagree with what he's saying. I want to get your take on it. But he's basically saying that the dash cam video, in a sense, takes the murder one rap away from this cop. And if we could roll the video on this, and that, because you see the car being pulled over here, and what he went on to say is it shows that it started as a righteous traffic stop. It gives you some of the context of the blood boiling, and Geraldo said he did everything he could, and now he dared physically in an altercation with the guy. And again, looking at the dash cam video, he pulls up to the car. He's not expecting a confrontation. And you watch here what happens. This is all leading up to the moment when, you know, the guy gets out of the car and begins to run. Now, I would argue that I don't care if the guy punched the cop in the face and hit him twice. At the moment the cop fired that weapon, he was not a threat to the cop. You can't shoot somebody in the back that's 12 feet away from you. What's your take?
I love Geraldo, and you were joking earlier, not joking, but you were being serious that you and I both met when our careers were just getting started. And I've said many times before that Geraldo Rivera was the very first person to put me on national television. So he's a friend of mine, and yet I say this with all the love in my heart. There's a fine line, Geraldo, between off-the-cuff and off-the-wall remarks. And sometimes Geraldo sees things and says things, and I love him dearly, that just don't make much sense to me. The bottom line is that this officer's life, as you said earlier, and I concur, his life was not in jeopardy. His life was not threatened. When you shoot someone 8 times in the back, your life is not a threat. This young man took off. This is not Usain Bolt. It's not like a cop in good shape couldn't have ensued him in a chase and brought him down. But your first option is to pull your gun out and to shoot 8 times at a guy who's running away from you. And then, Sean, after he's dead, face down on the ground to show that you don't respect his humanity or dignity. After he's dead, face down, you then handcuff him. My point is simply this. In 1985, the Supreme Court in 1985 set this to rest, Sean. I believe the case is Tennessee versus Garner. And in that case, the Supreme Court says that unless your life is threatened or the public's life is threatened, it's not justifiable. It is unlawful to use deadly force.
Tavis, I've carried a weapon my entire adult life. I've been trained in the use of firearms since I'm 11 years old. This is not justifiable. If your life's not in jeopardy or somebody else's, you do not have the right to take somebody's life. And not only that, you're shooting the guy in the back. All right, I got to run. Tavis, thanks for sticking with us. Appreciate it.